Good morning. Today I will read a story of the Jataka tales. These are very, 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 very old Indian story. The story is called The Greedy Deer. Once there was a deer who was as greedy as he was beautiful. He roamed into the king's park every day to graze. The park was in charge of a skilled gardener named Sanjay. The deer was wary of the gardener and would bolt away at the sight of him. Sanjay also tried to scare away the deer in his own way, but in vain. Sanjay had never seen such a fast deer before. It bolted away at the mere sight of him and was never kept away for long. It would be there to graze at every possible moment. It was a sheer marvel for the gardener. Sanjay was in the habit of picking beautiful flowers for the king every day. Pleased by his service, the king once asked him, "Dear gardener, have you ever sighted anything unusual in the garden?" Sanjay, whose mind was ever occupied with the thoughts of the deer, replied, "Your Majesty, I do see an exceptionally fast deer grazing in the garden every day. Will you catch it for me?" "Your Majesty, though it is very fast, I could even bring it into the palace if I am provided some honey." The king was surprised. He knew that one needed a snare to catch a deer. But why honey? The king was puzzled. Nevertheless, he ordered a lot of honey for Sanjay. The gardener entered the park with honey. He was glad that the king had honored his request. In the park, he spread some honey on the grass where the deer usually grazed. And when the deer came to the spot to graze, it was delighted to taste the honeyed grass. Now Sanjay made it a daily practice to spread honey on the grass. Consequently, the deer was bound to the spot. It would go nowhere else. Eventually, when it was completely gripped by the extraordinary taste of the honeyed grass, the gardener revealed himself. Initially, the deer felt uneasy at the gardener's presence, but gradually it became familiar with him. It ate grass from Sanjay's hands and feared him no more. Thus the gardener won its confidence. Shortly afterwards, he covered the path from the park to the palace with mats and spread honeyed grass on it. Then he tucked a bunch of grass under his arm, hung a pot of honey from his shoulder, and took position on the mat. The deer, who was endeared to the gardener by then, followed him under the tempting smell of honey and found itself inside the royal palace. Sanjay showed exemplary haste to bolt the palace gates. The deer was bewildered at the sight of so many people around. He shuddered and ran about in panic. When the king heard a noise in his premises, he came out of his chamber. As he saw the deer shuddering in panic, the king said to himself, The deer tend to avoid for a week the place where a human being is sighted. And if frightened, they would not visit the place for their whole life. This fast deer has come to this place bound by his lust for honey. It is rightly said that there is nothing worse than the greed for honey in this world. Oh, the moral of this story is greed leads to nothing but trouble. Thank you.